Work, Trump and the Girl Bison Tray. About Donald Trump and the Operation Babylift. As for Donald Trump, the way he expresses his views on children and immigrants is quite complicated. As president, he has had controversial policies, especially on immigration. His immigration policies, such as separating children from their parents at the US-Mexico border, have made many people feel that he does not care about the rights of immigrant children. In fact, it existed before President Obama, and then blamed him for everything. However, through specific actions, he has also implemented a number of programs to support and protect children in the US, such as promoting school safety and opposing gun violence in schools. Trump's views on immigrants are very clear, with the policy of border control and immigration restrictions. This does not necessarily mean that he hates immigrants, but rather that he supports stricter immigration controls, arguing that they protect national security. But these policies have been criticized as being inhumane to many immigrant families and individuals. We cannot conclude that Trump hates or loves any particular group, because his policies and views are influenced by his political ideology and the goal of protecting what he believes to be the interests of the United States. But it can be seen that Mr. Trump's compassion for children and immigrants is often misunderstood due to his strict immigration policies. Although many of his policies are aimed at protecting security and tightening border controls, that does not necessarily mean that he is uncompassionate. His actions and views may be influenced by his political ideology and the priority of protecting what he believes is necessary for the United States. The story of immigrant and refugee children also shows another side of the compassion that Mr. Trump has shown, not only through his child safety programs in the country, but also through his concern for the successful Vietnamese immigrant community in the United States. Mr. Trump has always shown special affection for the Vietnamese community through public events, such as when he visited a Vietnamese restaurant in Virginia, where he expressed his love for the community. This action shows an effort to strengthen relations with Vietnamese voters and recognize their contributions to American society. From the history of the Vietnam War. In late April 1975, when the war in Vietnam escalated and the war was about to end, the United States launched Operation Babylift. During this campaign, approximately 3,000 to 4,000 Vietnamese children, many of whom were abandoned or orphaned, were flown to the United States and other countries for care and adoption. Planes loaded with children operated by the U.S. military, as well as international aid organizations, left Vietnam to bring them to safety. Some Amerasians or children of war later returned to Vietnam to find their biological parents. Some succeeded, some did not, but all went on emotional journeys to find their identity. Many grew up in American families and had the opportunity to study and develop in their new country. But as adults, many began their own journeys to find their roots, hoping to find their biological parents or family in Vietnam. There were touching success stories of children who were able to reunite with their families after many years of separation. However, there are those who cannot find their parents due to lack of information and archives from the war. But there are many thrilling stories of Vietnamese children adopted in the U.S. after the Operation Babylift campaign in 1975, growing up with doubts about their origins. Many of them have gone through a difficult journey to find their birth families in Vietnam. The desire to connect with their cultural and family roots has never faded, even though some of them have faced great obstacles in genetic testing technology and language barriers. One outstanding story is about a girl who was adopted in the U.S. when she was very young. Later, when she grew up, she was always urged by questions about her identity and birth family. She decided to return to Vietnam to search for her family. However, technologies such as DNA testing in Vietnam were not yet developed enough, and wartime records were almost completely lost. Despite not having much information at first, she persisted with a strong will, just like in Vietnamese culture, the belief that blood and flesh are strength and motivation. Finally, by chance, she connected with a charity that supports the search for relatives of Vietnamese refugee children, where she searched for clues and used the latest techniques for DNA testing. After a long wait for results, she found her biological parents, and the reunion took place in tears when the pieces of the family that seemed to be lost forever were now found together. This story and many others like it demonstrate the power of the instinct to return to one's roots, no matter how harsh the circumstances. Vietnamese children growing up in America are not simply looking for their parents, but also finding their own identity in the journey back to their homeland. Trump was deeply moved by the touching story of Tran Thi Lon, a girl who was evacuated from Vietnam when she was only 2 years old and adopted by a family in California. As an adult, Lon was determined to find her roots. After years of effort, Lon finally found her biological mother and had a tearful reunion in Vietnam. But there are many others who are not as lucky as Lon, who have to live with fragmented pieces of the past and accept that they will never find the complete truth about their origins. These stories demonstrate that Donald Trump has always protected children and promoted a culture where life and family are respected. He is a staunch defender of traditional values and family rights. As a leader, he has always emphasized the importance of building a society with a strong moral foundation. Trump's views on immigration and border protection, while controversial, stem from the goal of ensuring the safety of citizens and maintaining control over immigration. This does not necessarily represent a lack of compassion, but instead can be seen as a tough approach to preventing unrest while creating the best conditions for those who are allowed to legally immigrate to the United States. During his years in office, despite being criticized for some policies that made it difficult for immigrant children, Trump has always shown a desire to protect the family and sustainable values in American society, encouraging minority communities, including the Vietnamese community, to work and contribute to the country. Trump's views on the right to life reflect a profound humanistic philosophy, in which he places human values and the right to life first. His advocacy for life demonstrates his awareness of the sacredness of life, a concept that he believes will form the core strength of a strong and moral America. Therefore, for many people, Trump is not only a politician but also a symbol of the protection of traditional values, affirming that a strong society must always focus on protecting, developing and respecting the life of each individual.